Okay, here we go. This is Garrett, Tears to Joy Ministries.org. This video is called The Secret U.S. Spaceship Program, Part 3. Now, I do not like reading articles when I record videos. I've got over 450 videos now, praise God. And I count on Him to speak through me. It's the best way to do it. It's the most powerful way to record. It's the most intimate way to record. It's the most life-changing way to record, by letting God speak through you. That's why I purposely try not to read articles when I'm recording. But for this video, I'm going to be reading one of my own articles. So you might notice that I'm speaking a little differently or hesitating a little bit. That's because I'm going to be looking at notes that I have on 10 secret spaceships that the USA has. 10 secret spaceships. I am going to be using information from Dr. Richard Boylan, PhD. So some of the time as I'm speaking, I'll be reading what Richard says, and some of the times I'll be commenting myself. So here we go. Let's see what Richard Boylan says. Dr. Boylan says, while I have gathered or been entrusted by others with considerable information on special American aerospace craft, those are spaceships, I do not claim to know everything that is in the U.S. arsenal, nor everything about the operations and capabilities of the craft that I am about to speak about. What I know is presented here. So let's get started. Dr. Boylan says, at this time, I am aware of the existence of 10 kinds of special technology, advanced aerospace platforms. Those are spaceship platforms. 10 different kinds, and this was written a while ago. I wouldn't be surprised if the United States had 30 different kinds of spaceships at this time. But let's go over these 10 so you can learn more, so we can learn more, uncover more truths that have been hidden. These are covered up. These are hidden. There's deceptions. The demons are involved. It's an absolute mess. So let's talk about these 10. Dr. Boylan says these 10 spaceships are the Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, the Aurora, the Lockheed Martin's X-33A, the Boeing and Airbus Industries Nautilus, the TR-3A Pumpkin Seed, the TR-3B Triangle, Northrop's Great Pumpkin Disc, Teledyne Ryan's Aeronautical XH-75D, the Shark Anti-Gravity Helicopter, and Lockheed Martin and Northrop's jointly developed TA-50 hypersonic anti-gravity fighter bomber. That is a hypersonic anti-gravity fighter bomber. All right, let's get going here now. I'm going to read some technical information. The most primitive kind of spaceship is the anti-gravity electrogravitic. That's the most primitive kind. So we're starting backwards, going forwards. These ships use voltages in the millions of volts to disrupt the ambient gravitational field. This results in an 89% reduction in gravity's hold on airframes in such vehicles as the B-2 stealth bomber and the TR-3B Astra triangular craft. Those are those black triangle spaceships. And given the considerable ambient ionization field I observed around the X-22A, it is reasonable to assume that extreme voltage electrogravitics is also employed with these craft. So these are using these are using high voltages in the millions of volts. In layman's terms, to reduce gravity by about 90%. And when you reduce gravity by 90%, you can fly very, very fast. Now, the next level up in sophistication is the magnetogravitic. This involves generating high energy toroidal fields spun at incredible RPMs, which also disrupts the ambient gravitational field. Indeed, to the extent that a counterforce of Earth's gravitational pull is generated. So, they are creating a gravitational field that opposes the Earth's gravitation. So it actually pushes them away. It pushes them away from the Earth at very, very fast speeds. This technology might have been used in some of the earlier American spaceships and prototypes, but I have only been told that the secret Nautilus spacecraft uses magnetic pulsing, which appears to utilize this technology. Now, the next level up in sophistication, used by the USA American anti-gravity craft, is direct generation and harnessing of the gravitational strong force. Such force fields extend slightly beyond the atomic nucleus of element 115. An exotic element donated by star visitor scientist consultants to human scientists at S4. What he's saying is, in layman's terms, the demons who have been visiting the secret U.S. government, yes, we have a secret U.S. government that runs the United States. They gave them information on this exotic element called element 115. And this was done at the secret base S4. It's south of Area 51. And the way it works is by amplifying that exposed gravitational strong force and using antimatter reactor high energy and then directing it, it is possible to lift a craft from the Earth and then change directions by vectoring the shaped anti-gravity force field that's generated. So they're changing the shape of the artificial force of the anti-gravity artificial force fields to change directions really quickly. Let's see. Now let's continue. Now, Dr. Boylan says, let's examine these 10 spaceships in more detail. Here we go. I'm having trouble breathing. I have that demon attacking my chest, so it's a little hard to breathe right now. Okay, number one, the B-2 stealth bomber manufactured by Northrop Grumman. The Air Force describes it as a low observable, strategic, long-range heavy bomber capable of penetrating sophisticated and dense air defense shields. Retired Air Force Colonel Donald Ware passed on to me information from a 3-star general he knows. He revealed to him in July that the B-2 stealth bomber have electrogravitic systems on board, and that this explains why our 21 Northrop B-2s cost about $1 billion each. Number two, the Aurora SR-33A is a moderate-sized spaceship. The late National Security Council scientist, Dr. Michael Wolff of NSC's Unacknowledged Special Studies Group Subcommittee, formerly called MJ-12, has stated that the Aurora can operate on both conventional fuel and anti-gravity field propulsion systems. That anti-gravity field propulsion systems is the foundation for most of our spaceships. He further stated that the Aurora can travel to the moon. Well, of course it can. We've been going to the moon for decades and decades. Not with NASA spaceships, not with the Apollo program. No. We've been on the moon for decades with the secret spaceship programs. Wolff had also disclosed to me that the U.S. has a small station on the moon and a tiny observation post on Mars. Okay, what else does he say about the Aurora? He said that the Aurora operates out of Area 51, Groom Dry Lake Air Force Station, northeast corner of the Nellis Air Force Base Range in north of Las Vegas. That's where I'm from. The next spaceship we're going to talk about, the Lockheed Martin X-33A military space plane. This is a prototype of Lockheed's other space plane, the single-stage orbit reusable aerospace vehicle. Lockheed Martin does not say too much about the delta-shaped X-33 Venture Star, except to say that we are building it. They acknowledge they have spaceships. They just acknowledged it right there. To be at that stage of development for its public program, clearly Lockheed Martin has already long since built spaceships, as well as an unacknowledged military version, which I have dubbed the X-33A. A stands for anti-gravity. Let me explain something to you here now. When Lockheed Martin will publicly confess that they're working on spaceships, what Dr. Boylan is really saying is, in private, in secret, in black budget programs, they're possibly 50 to 100 years more advanced in the future. That means in secret. In the secret, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble breathing. In their secret spaceship programs, they have spaceships 50 to 100 years more advanced than the X-33 Venture Star spaceship. That's what he's saying there. Colonel Donald Ware of the United States Air Force told me that he had recently learned from a 3-star general that the Venture Star X-33 has an electrogravitics anti-gravity system on board. This virtually assures that the unacknowledged military anti-gravity version, the X-33A, must surely also have electrogravitics on board. It is possible that what I have called the X-33A is actually the Aurora spaceship which Dr. Wolf described. Number 4, the Lockheed X-22A is a two-man anti-gravity disc fighter. The late Colonel Steve Wilson, United States Air Force, stated that military astronauts trained at a secret aerospace academy separate from the regular Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs. These military astronauts then operate out of Beale and Vandenberg Air Force bases, Northern California. These military astronauts regularly fly transatmospherically and out into space. You see, people, this is Garrett talking now. We've been in space for so long. Even Nazi Germany had spaceships. And from what I have uncovered, even the Japanese in World War II had anti-gravity disc fighters already, and that they have possibly have been to the moon even back in the 1940s or late 1940s. It is an absolute shame that they decided to cover all of this up from us, because maybe like me, some of you love space, some of you love space travel, some of you love to think about it and meditate on it, and the fact is they've been doing it for decades and decades and they covered it up. Well, they're working with the demons, so that is one of the reasons why they're covering it up. But let's continue. Dr. Boylan says another informant, we're not going to use the informant's real name, we'll call him Jesse, who formerly worked at the NSA, told me that the Lockheed X-22A anti-gravity fighter disc fleet, and it's a fleet, they have a fleet of them, and they are equipped with neutral particle beam directed energy weapons. Yes, we have everything in Star Wars and Star Trek, like I've been telling you, like I learned 10 years ago, and I want to share with you. We have everything in Star Wars and Star Trek. Everything. Listen to this again. We have a fleet of Lockheed X-22A anti-gravity fighter disc spaceships, and they are equipped with neutral particle beam directed energy weapons that it is capable of affecting optical as well as radar invisibility, and that these are deployable for worldwide military options from the new U.S. Space Warfare Headquarters located in hardened underground facilities beneath Kings Peak in the Wasatch Mountains out in the wilderness 80 miles east of Salt Lake City. Now let Garrett talk for a second, please. Listen to this. When you see us fighting in Afghanistan with rifles, when you see us fighting in Afghanistan with 40-year-old helicopters and tanks that we designed and built 20 years ago, it's all a scam. It's a scam. When you see us fighting in Syria with guns and rifles and machine guns, this is a geopolitical deception. We have space-age technology weapons. We have space-age technology bombs, which I'm going to be sharing with you in about 10 minutes. It's all a deception. The Illuminati is doing geopolitic, demonic deception on planet Earth by having a regiment of U.S. Marines invade Afghanistan or invade Colombia or invade Syria. We have spaceship fighters and spaceship bombers that could wipe out a city in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes or less. All right, let's continue. Dr. Boylan says, recently I also heard from an Army engineer formerly tied to NASA who shall remain unnamed at his request. He also confirmed that Lockheed had made the X-22A, the two-man anti-gravity fighter disc, which I had seen test flown in a canyon adjacent to the main Area 51. So we have an eyewitness here. And he explained why he had seen the X-22A flown during that test flight. He said that the original X-22A had a standard altimeter hardwired into it, but such an instrument would give faulty readings in the craft's anti-gravity field, which bends space-time. Uh-oh. Did you hear that? We have a fleet of X-22As which bends space-time. Okay, let's continue. He had seen more X-22As flying more smoothly and confidently at high altitudes over near Area 51. Another informant who wishes his identity kept private related operational details about military deployment of the anti-gravity disc, which sound like the X-22A. And he reports during Operation Desert Storm, that's when George Bush Sr., the dad, convinced countries from all over the world to go meet in the Middle East and attack Iraq. Operation Desert Storm. Listen to this story that I learned about 10 years ago, which is going to shock you. During Operation Desert Storm in Iraq, a close relative of mine was in charge of a Marine division. So this is probably a general in charge of an entire Marine division right on the front. In the first days of film footage, and especially video cameras, which a large number of the troops had, they were all collected and impounded so they wouldn't capture any sensitive material. Iraq was pumped up and gung-ho since they had well over 50,000 troops ready to fight us. Since we only had about 3,500 that they knew of, because of the close proximity of the troops, we couldn't use nuclear weapons. So they were assuming, so the Iraqi army was assuming this was going to be a piece of cake. Wrong. Let me tell you what happened then. 2 pictures my relative confiscated from one of the officers had shown a large disc-shaped spaceship slightly in front of our men with a high-intensity beam of light emitting out of it. Then, where men and equipment was, where the Iraqi army was, where the Iraqi tanks were, where the Iraqi artillery equipment was located, there only remained dark charcoal-like spots on the desert floor. And Dr. Boylan says, we have had this technology for quite a while. Let me tell you something. We have probably had this technology since the 1960s. 1960s. So when you see them using F-14 fighter jets that were created something like 30 or 40 years ago, it's deception. It's Illuminati satanic deception to trick you, to trick the public, to trick the citizens of the world. Now let me tell you what happened. The described disk was clearly an anti-gravity, levitating aerial weapons platform in the U.S. arsenal. This is a spaceship platform that could destroy an entire city in 10 minutes. Quite possibly, it was the Lockheed X-22A two-manned disc, the real Dark Star, of which the unmanned drone, the X-22 Dark Star, is but an aircraft cover program to disguise the existence of the real anti-gravity fighter disc, the X-22A. My informant told me the real manned discs, these are the black budget spaceships, come equipped with the latest neutral particle beam weapons, which take apart the target at the molecular level. Did you hear that? They take apart targets at the molecular level. These are U.S. military fighters, which are most likely controlled by the Illuminati secret government of the United States. Let's read about the next spaceship. Number 5, the Nautilus, is another spaceship. This military spaceship operates by magnetic pulsing. It operates out of an unacknowledged, brand new headquarters of the U.S. Space Command deep under a mountain in Utah. It makes trips twice a week up to the secret military intelligence space station. Yes, we have a space station in space run by secret military intelligence. Obviously, they're working with the demons, because once you go out into space, the demons and the fake UFO spaceships are everywhere. They're everywhere. Which has been in deep space for 30 years. 30 years we've had this space station. And it's manned by USA and Russian military astronauts. You see, you learned the United States and Russia are enemies. It's all a deception. It's all an Illuminati deception. Okay, let's continue. The Nautilus is manufactured jointly by Boeing's Phantom Works near Seattle and EU's Airbase Industries Anglo-French Consortium. This is not even owned by the United States. They're all working together under the Illuminati, under Satan, under Jesus. The secret U.S. government is building this with the secret European government and the secret French government. A few years ago, Dr. Boylan said he had a very secret conversation with a former Boeing executive who worked in their Phantom Works Black Projects division. The executive confirmed what I had earlier learned from an intelligence insider, that Boeing had teamed up with Europe's Airbus Industries to manufacture the Nautilus. Isn't that shocking that almost everything you've learned is a lie and a deception? I know it was shocking when I learned it. Let's continue. Number 6, the TR-3A pumpkin seed is a super fast spaceship. The pumpkin seed nickname is a reference to its thin oval airframe whose contours resemble that of a pumpkin seed. So the spaceship looks a little bit like a pumpkin seed. It may be the craft identified as using pulse detonation technology for propulsion in a sub-hypersonic regime, and also uses anti-gravity technology for either mass reduction or complementary field propulsion at higher speed levels. So here we have a very fast spaceship. These pulse detonation wave engines could theoretically propel a hypersonic aircraft towards Mach 10 at an altitude in excess of 180,000 feet. Used to power a trans-atmospheric vehicle, the same engines might be capable of lifting the craft to the edge of space when switched to rocket mode. Next, number 7, the TR-3B Astra is a large triangular anti-gravity craft in the U.S. spaceship fleet. We have a fleet of them. We could have 300 of them. We can have 700 of them. Black Projects defense industry insider Edgar Rothschild wrote about the existence of the TR-3B in his book. We have a Rothschild here writing about the spaceship in his book a long time ago. All right, now Dr. Boylan goes through paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of information on the TR-3B. I'm not going to read it all. It would take probably 15, 20 minutes. But this is a extremely fast, powerful spaceship. And it's including hypersonic missile propulsion technology. And its speed is far, far faster than missiles. The date of this spaceship goes back to possibly between the 1950s and 1970s. And this ship is using hyper advanced technology. I think the ship was used in the Desert Storm War back in 1991 to destroy Iraqi tanks. You can see pictures of the TR-3B all over the internet. So if you want to sit here and tell me, Garrett, I don't believe you, Garrett, something is wrong here, Garrett, this doesn't make sense, well, I'm sorry. There's pictures all over the internet all about this. Anybody can look this up. Anybody at all. Now, Dr. Boylan says the TR-3B, this is a code name for what everyone on Earth has seen, is a very large triangular spaceship re-entry vehicle with anti-gravity. This is a re-entry spaceship. And they call it a nuclear-powered flying saucer. And that went into operation back in 1962. That's how old this technology is, or that's how old these spaceships are. Now, the outer coating of the TR-3B responds to electrical stimulation. It can change color. It can reflect and absorbs radar waves, making Echo vehicle look like a small plane, and even all kinds of other technical advanced technology here. For example, an accelerated plasma in a circular ring called the disruptor surrounds the crew department and is as far ahead of technology that your mind can possibly imagine. Dr. Boylan says the government will protect this technology at any cost. This is incredible. The TR-3B is a platform spaceship with unlimited flight time. Because it's using a nuclear reactor as a power source, it can fly unlimited. Dr. Boylan says only God knows how fast this spaceship can fly. Dr. Boylan says the TR-3B was used in the early hours of the Gulf War with Iraq with its electromagnetic pulse laser cannons. It literally it hovered in the air. It just sat there in the air, firing long and medium and short range laser bursts to take out antennas, towers, communications of the Iraqi government, air traffic control, TV dishes, and TV centers. For 3 hours, these 3 triangle spaceships just sat there blowing up everything in sight. And this was back in 1991, I think, although we already stated that these triangular spaceships have been around since the 60s or 70s. Think about this. They were being used in 91. We're getting closer to 2017. Can you even imagine what the Illuminati-controlled secret governments have now? You would have to assume we have spaceships that surpass Star Wars and Star Trek. You would just have to believe that. Listen to this. Dr. Boylan says, then, I'm sorry, let me back up because I am reading. Anyway, the TR-3B has been in testing since the 1960s, but it has only been perfected since about 1992. 1992. We're talking about 25 years ago, the TR-3B was perfect. What can we possibly have now? I think Dr. Boylan says the TR-3B has been compartmentalized by the Skunk Works Lockheed Martin's classified plant at Palmdale, California, and Boeing Phantom Works in Seattle. And they are housed in Utah. The same informant told me that the U.S. Space Command has located its prime headquarters and anti-gravity spaceship fleet's facility beneath King Mountain, the tallest mountain in the Wasatch Range east of Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, Dr. Boylan includes all kinds of fascinating technical information on the TR-B3 Astra. I'm going to include a link down below where you can read the full article because it's just shocking. It's absolutely shocking information here. Okay, for the sake of time, let's go to number 8. The Northrop Aircraft Corporation has manufactured its Northrop anti-gravity spaceship, designation unknown, which I have called the Great Pumpkin Seed. From its brilliant, glowing orange color, I first saw these craft operationally test flown in 1992 above the Groom Range Ridge line at Area 51. He saw these in 1992, 25 years ago. What on earth do we have now? Dr. Boylan says, later I saw the same intensely burning bright orange gold craft that I had seen above Area 51 being test flown 60 miles north of Los Angeles in the Tehachapi Mountains east of Edwards Air Force Base. There, the Northrop has its secret saucer manufacturing works buried deep within the mountains. I saw the same intensely burning bright orange gold craft test flown above Northrop's mountaintop test bed, as I also saw back at Area 51. When energized, these disks emit their characteristic intense glow. It is reasonable to assume that this is due to strong ionization and that electrogravitics is the method of their field propulsion. Number 9, the XH-75D or XH Shark anti-gravity helicopter. This is manufactured by Teledyne Ryan Aeronautical Corporation of San Diego. United States Air Force Colonel Steve Wilson reported that many of these anti-gravitational Shark helicopters assigned to the Delta National Reconnaissance Organization Division, which retrieves downed UFOs. Oh boy. These helicopters were created and designed, anti-gravity helicopters, to retrieve crashed UFO spaceships. That division is also implicated in mutilating cattle as a psychological warfare program on the American public to try to get citizens to fear and hate extraterrestrials through assuming that aliens are the ones cutting up the cattle. Colonel Wilson also leaked a drawing of the XH-75D Shark, which I've put here in the video. Number 10, the last spaceship that we're going to talk about. We have a whole lot more than this. Only God and Jesus Christ can possibly know what we have. Number 10, the Ta-50 is a hypersonic anti-gravity space fighter bomber. This is a spaceship fighter bomber, hypersonic. A defense contractor with whom I have been in communication leaked to me details of this U.S. advanced Ta-50 warcraft. Developed during the early 1990s, it's 25 years old. The capabilities of this spaceship are jaw-dropping, and the technology shows that the Defense Department did not fail to utilize what it learned combing through the wreckage of various UFO crashes. The Ta-50 was jointly developed by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, Palmdale, California, and Northrop, undoubtedly at their undeclared anthill facility within the Tehachapi Mountains, northwest of Lancaster, California. Both companies have a history of development of secret anti-gravity craft at these Mojave Desert locations. The Ta-50 has speed capabilities in excess of Mach 50. A number of contractors calls the speed of Mach 50 a very conservative estimate. Its actual speed is classified. This spaceship bomber can most likely go much faster than Mach 50. So what are we doing in Syria right now with soldiers on the ground? What are we doing in Afghanistan with soldiers and helicopters? We have helicopters on the ground. Helicopters. What are we doing? Illuminati, mind control, deception. That's what that is. Listen to this. Since Mach 1 is approximately 750 miles an hour, this means that the Ta-50 is capable of moving much faster than 38,000 miles per hour. In comparison, the velocity required to escape Earth's gravity is 25,000 miles per hour. Therefore, the Ta-50 is capable of going into space, and it does. The Ta-50 has a Scram supersonic ramjet propulsion system for passing through the outer atmosphere. The Ta-50 utilizes electrogravitics to maintain its own artificial gravity while in the weightlessness of space. It creates its own artificial gravity, as well as to nullify the vehicle's mass during operations. The Ta-50's power supply is provided by a small nuclear power generator that the contractor said is normal inert. Do you understand the technology here? Nothing is as it seems. The contractor said that the spaceplane uses electromagnetoferrometric power generation by the immersion of pellets in heavy water, deuterium, and specially designed coil superconductive magnets which yield enormous amounts of free electrons when placed in an immersion which has been triggered into an oscillating field state flux. Does the Starship Enterprise do that? Do the spaceships in Star Wars do that? Listen to this. The Ta-50 has a crew of 4 people. Nevertheless, the Ta-50 flies so fast that it requires computers to fly it. These computers were developed by an American computer company who derived them from its Valkyrie XB9000 artificial intelligence guidance series. They utilize a RISC millispec superchip. There are 180 of them in the flight control system. 180 of these computer chips and 64 more in the weapons guidance control system, the contractor reported. The Ta-50 can carry a combined payload of glide bombs and a package of MIRV, multiple independent targeted re-entry vehicles, and a group of intercontinental ballistic missiles, each of which can seek out and strike a different target. The MIRV pack also contains re-entry capable balloon countermeasures to make it very difficult for laser and other defensive weapons to track down where the real MIRVs are and intercept them. The Ta-50 is armed with its own kill laser system, which can track and immolate SAM, surface-to-air missiles, surface-to-trans-atmospheric missiles, and air-to-air missiles, and air-to-trans-atmospheric missiles. The Ta-50's killer lasers can also knock down high-performance fighter interceptors. So don't tell me we're at war with Russian jets in Syria. Don't tell me we're going to go to war in the Ukraine with Russia. Don't tell me we're going to have a conventional war with China in the future. It's one big scam to create fear, to create anxiety, and to kill off population. Anytime they're using conventional bullets, conventional guns, jets, fighter jets, helicopters, it's a scam. It's one big scam. Listen to this. You're going to love this. The TA's kill laser is much smaller than the earlier 1980s Star Wars program models and has a miniaturized cooling core and 500 times more wattage. The contractor said it uses a spontaneous nucleonic burst to trigger the lasing effect. Listen to this now. In addition, the Ta-50 is armed with micro, super, explosive, hyper dart missiles. Did you hear that? Micro, super, explosive, hyper dart missiles. These are just a little larger than an ordinary aircraft cannon ammunition. Do you understand how small these are? You can hold one of these in your hand, I think. But they travel at hypersonic speed for up to 3 minutes and have enormous explosive capability. One hyper dart can blow apart a MiG fighter jet anywhere within 20 feet of the dart. The Ta-50 carries hundreds of hyper darts. Because the TAW-50 is designed to operate in space. Oh, it's designed to operate in space only? It has on board a 2-day air supply. This air supply can be extended by using its scoop system and traveling into the upper atmosphere to harvest more oxygen. The contractor did not reveal the size of the space fighter bomber except to say it's a very big thing. The performance of the TAW-50 makes it virtually impossible to defend against. It can hide in orbit many hundreds of miles into space, orbiting at 22,000 miles an hour. Then, without warning, it can dive straight down through the atmosphere at over 38,000 miles per hour on an 80-degree attack vector, reverse direction within 150 feet of the ground without the loss of motion and without a glide turn. Here, listen to this. It's in space. It dives towards Earth faster than 38,000 miles an hour. And then 150 feet before hitting the ground, it can change direction. Then it can instantly go back up and out into space again at over 38,000 miles an hour, leaving the atmosphere, going into space. The contractor noted those electrogravitics allow it to change its mass to almost nothing in a split second and reverse direction in a split second. Increase its acceleration. The contractor said this is not even funny. They are able to nullify the G-force on the pilots. The electrogravitics in the TAW-50 are 4th generation. Did you hear that clearly? This technology is 4th generation. It's been around since the 50s and 60s. With the ability to bring it to a complete standstill in under 2 milliseconds without crushing the pilots. Listen to this. The spaceship is going faster than 38,000 miles per hour, and in under 2 milliseconds, it could be standing still. The contractor said this spaceship is far too fast for radars to track it. The TAW-50 can be refueled and rearmed in orbit by docking with the secret, undeclared military space station that's in orbit. The entire refueling and rearming procedure takes under 10 minutes. Who mans the gas pumps? Military astronauts trained at the secret Air Force Academy located in the hills west of the official Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado. These military astronauts rotate duty by traveling to and from Vandenberg Air Force Base on other military anti-gravity vehicles. Wow. as of 2002, the U.S. has 20 tall 50s in its arsenal. But the contractor commented, you can take out an entire country in under 10 days with only 10 of these doing 3 attacks a day. If you have 10 tall 50s, just 10 of them, and you're doing only 3 attacks a day, you could take out all of Russia, all of China, all of the United States, all of Mexico, all of Canada. Just 3 attacks a day. You can take out an entire country. The contractor said 1 tall 50 can wipe out an entire city the size of Cleveland in a single attack without using any nuclear weapons at all. In 1 attack, it can destroy Cleveland. So, why are we fighting with ground troops in Syria? Why do we have ground troops in Iraq, in Afghanistan? Why does the U.S. military have ground troops all over the world? Satanic, Illuminati, deception. The electrogravitics for the tall 50 was produced by GE Radionics. Pratt and Whitney designed the SCRAM atmospheric penetrator technology. American Computer Company created artificial intelligence supercomputers. Let's finish up with one last spaceship that will blow your mind. Number 11, the last one we're going to talk about. The Northrop Quantum Teleportation Disk. Oh boy. Dr. Boylan says, are the 10 spaceships named above state-of-the-art in advanced aerospace craft? No. What he's saying is those last 10 spaceships we've been talking about have been outdated and outdone by brand new spaceship technology. Dr. Boylan says there have been advances beyond mere anti-gravity field propulsion. Quantum particulate physics is now being used to update a variety of spacecraft and their weapon systems. In September 2005 field trip to Area 51, during a middle of the night observation, I saw first one, then another, and finally 6 brightly lit objects suddenly appear approximately 1,000 meters above the desert floor. The intensely glowing golden orange ionization field surrounding these spaceships appeared identical to the field around the Northrop anti-gravity disk. Now listen to this. This is going to blow your mind. But in the 13 years since I had last observed the Northrop disks in Area 51, considerable progress has been made. In 1992, the Northrop disk slowly rose vertically from its flight pad and gradually reached flight altitude. But in 2005, that's 13 years later, these craft are able to depart from their flight pad and suddenly appear at flight altitude without any visible flight. And it's not a matter of their ionization fields, which have been turned off during the stealth purposes. What he's saying is these spaceships now teleport. They don't even fly. They teleport now to another location. Dr. Boylan says, what's going on is that the Northrop engineers have incorporated quantum physics principles into their propulsion systems. We're using quantum physics in our spaceships now. Simply stated, Northrop appears to have harnessed quantum entanglement to achieve quantum teleportation. Now, how is anyone going to tell Garrett we don't have teleportation technology? It looks like we've had it for about 20 years, maybe 30, maybe since the 1960s. We have spaceships that don't even fly anymore. Now they teleport. Wow. If this observation is correct, then this is the 11th entry into the U.S. anti-gravity arsenal, the Northrop Quantum Teleportation Disk. If the black budget scientists keep advancing along these lines, we could foresee the day when a fleet of Air Force craft suddenly just disappear, and they reappear 35,000 feet in the air above a city halfway around the globe. Let me explain. We would have a fleet of black budget spaceships coming out of their base in Colorado. Seconds later, they have teleported 35,000 feet above Moscow in Russia using quantum teleportation engines. Wow. I will put a link down below so you can read the full article, because I bypassed a lot of technical information that was very interesting. You see, what the world has told us about the dinosaurs has been lies. What the world has told us about the universe is mostly lies. What we've been taught about planet Earth is mostly lies. What we've been taught about the Old Testament is mostly lies. What we've been taught about the old world before the flood is mostly lies. The history that we have been taught in the United States and the rest of the world is mostly lies. The entire NASA space program is one big lie to cover up the real spaceship program. NASA is a lie created to cover up the black budget Illuminati spaceship programs of the world. The wars in the Falklands and in Bosnia and in Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, and everywhere else, yeah, real people are dying, real bullets are being used, but it's all a lie. It's all a deception to make you think something else than what the truth actually is. When you see F-15s flying over Nellis Air Force Base, it's all a lie and a deception. When you see F-16s flying over Vandenberg Air Force Base, it's all a lie. It's all a deception. We are possibly 100 years in the future with our military black budget technology. And from what it looks like, and from what we can tell, we have everything in the Star Wars movies. We have everything in the Star Trek movies, and possibly beyond. We're possibly beyond that, using spaceships that teleport now. I know in the Dune, D-U-N-E, a science fiction movie, which came out a long time ago, they were folding space. It seems like we can do that now. I wish they would have told us the truth, but we have to trust God. This is all God's plan. God wanted it hidden. But as we're getting closer and closer to the 7-year tribulation, God is revealing more and more truths here. And as we're getting towards the end of the year 2016, and in 3 more months we'll be in 2017, we can't even begin to understand what technology that we actually have in these black budget secret programs. We can't even begin to understand. Okay, praise God for these truths. Praise God for revealing lies to us more and more and more. Okay, be blessed.